Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
There was nothing left for Shawn to say, so he sent Peregrine back. In no time, he and Freda were the only ones left in the mansion. Are we really going to let him work at Roxan's research institute? You put in so much effort to hire him. Freda was indignant on his behalf. However, Shawn shot her a glare and snapped, what then? What else can we do? Are you saying that you're capable of making him stay? Freda flinched and clamped her mouth shut, but she still felt aggrieved. What good is Roxan? How is she making the king of medicine stay for her? Clearly, we can provide him with better treatment. If he stays, he should be staying with us instead. The atmosphere in the living room turned tense. Shawn frowned and was quiet for a long while. All of a sudden he said, "Yet even if we can't keep that old man around, we can't let Roxan get such a good deal so easily." Freda nodded in agreement before curiously asking, "What do we do then?" Peregrine joining Roxan's research institute was already a matter set in stone. What could they possibly do to stop Roxan from getting away with that? When Shawn glanced at her again, the fury on his face dissipated. With a smile, he filled a cup of tea for her and said, Regardless of everything, you were the one who hired old Mr. Lomax. Now that he has treated Roxan, they should be thanking you." Freda turned to look at him in confusion. Impatience surged through Shawn, but he forced himself to stay calm as he said, Go home and tell your brother about this. I believe he's not an unreasonable man." Freda's heart skipped a beat in excitement, but she was still plagued with a little worry. But my brother, even if he wants to thank me, he'll thank me with some money and nothing too substantial." Due to her interactions with Shawn and Aubrey, Jonathan had been wary of her. Even if she did return to the Queen family, she would not be able to get an important position. Those thoughts infuriated Freda. She was also part of the Queen family, but while Jonathan was regarded with great importance, she could only be lorded over by her brother. Shawn could see the fury in her eyes, and a cold look flashed past his own eyes. He then slowly consoled, If I can say that, it means I have a way to get you an important position. All you need to do is heed my instructions." Freda was tempted by his words. Standing beside her, Shawn pulled her into his arms and said to her in a low voice, We're in the same boat. Why would I lie to you? Didn't I help you hire old Mr. Lomax when you asked me to find someone to save Roxan?" Upon his persuasion, Freda began to show signs of relenting. Just do as I say. Who knows who'll end up as the future head of the Queen family?" Shawn persisted. Finally, Freda leaned into his arms and softly said, I'll talk to my brother about this then. Let's see how he plans to thank me." Shawn lowered his gaze to look at the woman in his arms. There was nothing but gloominess in his eyes, but he patted her shoulder in encouragement as he said, I'll be waiting for your good news." The two of them continued to discuss more details about the plan for a while longer. When it was getting late, Shawn sent someone to bring Freda home. Meanwhile, Roxan had a pale look on her face, but Lucian did not know if it was because she had not fully recovered from the poison or because she was in a foul mood. Lucian was worried, so after exiting the hotel, he brought her to lunch before taking her to the hospital for a full-body checkup. Knowing that he was worried, Roxan went along with his plans. Lucian was finally at ease after Roxan underwent a series of tests and was confirmed to be mostly fine. "I know my own body. The poison is gone," Roxan softly reassured him. It's just that too many things have happened lately, and I'm having a hard time digesting them all. I'll be fine once things blow over." Roxan would feel wistful every time she thought about Jack's true nature and the collapse of Damaris Group. At that, Lucian pulled her into an embrace and spoke in a quiet voice. "Jack only has himself to blame for the downfall of Damaris Group. Furthermore, the Damaris have to bear the responsibility for not noticing what he has been doing. To put it simply, it was them who caused their fall from grace." Jack's vision for the continued development of Damaris Group, if realized, would result in worsening circumstances over time. If their cover had not been blown this time, it was highly probable that Damaris Group would be implicated in an irreparable medical mishap the next time. Perhaps this was the best ending for Damaris Group instead of involving even more victims. Roxanne knew that, and yet, she still could not help but feel wistful about it. If this is the true nature of Damaris Group, a company known for its benevolence, what about the other medical groups? Roxanne wondered if her decision to put her patients as her priority was wrong. Seemingly reading her mind, Lucian leaned closer to her ear and said, "Every professional has their own responsibilities. Damaris Group was established by a family of doctors, and they should prioritize saving lives. Even if they sought wealth, they should not have taken the path of evil. They were the ones who mixed up their priorities. Doctors like you are a rare sight now. I'd say Peregrine liked how you continued walking down the path you initially chose, and that's why he has chosen to stay at your research institute." He then ran his fingers through Roxanne's hair and continued, "She with me around, you won't need to worry about money as Jack did. All you need to do is focus on your medical career and leave the financial issues to me." Moved, Roxanne smiled at him. Despite his subtle words, she understood that he was asking her to hold on to her principles and ethics. His reassurances washed away her worries, and she no longer appeared so grim. A comfortable silence ensued in the car. Right then, the ringing of a phone broke that silence. Taking out her phone, Roxanne realized it was a call from Meline. Smiling, she answered the call. "Oh, what's up, Meline?" Meline sounded excited. I saw the news. I saw how Jack was caught. I can't believe that petty man was thinking of running after hurting you like that. He better stay stuck in prison for the rest of his life." Roxanne turned to look at Lucian. At the end of the day, Lucian was the one who managed to make Jack pay for his actions. By the way, how do you feel? Have you recovered completely?" Meline asked in concern. "I just had a checkup at the hospital. I've mostly recovered." That's fantastic." Meline was even more excited than her. This is a double blessing. Let's head out to celebrate, and it'll be my treat. Bring Mr. Farwell and the kids along." Upon hearing her best friend's words, Roxanne could not help but tease. "Are you sure you want to foot the bill if I'm bringing Lucian along?" Roxanne knew her friend far too well. There was no way Meline was going to pass up on a chance to take advantage of Lucian. Yet, to her surprise, Meline did not hesitate in her answer. I'll do that next time. This is a celebratory meal for you. Mr. Farwell will have to get in line if he wants to treat you too." A chuckle escaped Roxanne. All right, I won't spare your wallet then." Meline hummed in agreement. "I'll send you the location of the restaurant later, so just follow the address." Without saying anything further, they ended the call. Roxanne turned to Lucian and said, "Meline is treating us to dinner tonight, and she asked us to bring the kids along." Lucian inclined his head, and they drove back to pick the 3 children up. The children had not seen Roxanne since Lucian sent them home the night before. When they finally saw their mother returning safe and sound, they were visibly thrilled. "Mommy, you're back." Roxanne smiled and crouched down to hug the children, who darted toward her before listening to the merry words they had for her. After a while of chatting with them, she said, Come on, let's get changed. Your Aunt Meline is treating us tonight, so we're heading out for dinner." The children were even more excited to hear that their godmother was buying dinner. Hooray to Aunt Meline. The family of 5 had reunited, with Roxanne now fully recovered. Additionally, they were looking forward to having dinner with their godmother. For the children, the people they were closest to was by their sides again. There was nothing better in the world than that. The joyous moods of the children were infectious, and Roxanne's smile continued to stay on her face. Meline soon sent her the location of the restaurant. Roxanne and Lucian brought the 3 children there, after which they were led to a private room. Right as they sat down, the server brought the dishes to the table. A glance across the spread revealed that those dishes were Roxanne's and the children's favorites. Thank you," Roxanne blurted out. "I'm sorry to have worried you." Madeline's smile faded slightly, giving way to a gentler expression. "You did scare me. I'm so glad that everything turned out fine. That's all I want." She then glanced at Lucian before continuing to Roxanne. "No one had it as bad as Mr. Farwell. At the very least, I got a few hours of sleep, but he didn't get any at all." Roxanne followed her gaze to meet Lucian's eyes, and the couple lost themselves in each other. Everyone at the table was delighted with Roxanne's recovery, and the dinner was filled with merriment. Once in a while, Madeline would criticize Jack's self-inflicted situation and praise Lucian. She even nearly told Roxanne to hold on to Lucian because he was a good man. The three children were nodding along with Madeline the whole time. Pleased by their compliments, Lucian footed the bill before Madeline could say anything. It left Madeline grumpy about failing to treat Roxanne, and when she saw Roxanne about to leave with Lucian, she pulled her to the side. I haven't got to treat Roxanne yet. Mr. Farwell, please bring the kids home first. We're going to go for round 2. It went without saying that Lucian was anxious about Roxanne leaving his side when she had just recovered, coupled with the incident a while ago. Go back first. It so happens that I want to spend some more time with Madeline." Roxanne could tell that her best friend had something else to say to her, so she seconded Madeline. At her words, a frown marred Lucian's countenance. Worry was practically written all over his face. Seeing that, Madeline suggested understandingly, "If you're worried, Mr. Farwell, you can have someone follow us. Anyway, I certainly won't take Roxanne out to do anything to betray you." No sooner had she proposed that than Lucian agreed without hesitation. "It's decided, then. I'll have someone follow you both to provide protection. Call me when you're done, and I'll come and pick the two of you up." It was clear as day that such had been his plan from the very beginning. Naturally, Madeline had no objections to it. In fact, she even threw her best friend a teasing look. Things are indeed different when one is attached. A hint of scarlet stained Roxanne's face, and she smiled without responding to that, merely saying to Archie, Benny, and Estella, "Your Aunt Madeline and I will only go back a while later. Be good and listen to your daddy." All three children obediently acquiesced. Lucian made a call and waited for some time. It was not until he had ascertained that his subordinates were all in place that he drove away. What's wrong? Is something else the matter?" Madeline dragged Roxanne to a quiet bar, and the latter gave voice to that question in puzzlement after they had taken a seat. Wearing a somewhat strange expression, Madeline sounded hesitant as she started. "It isn't a big deal." She then took a sip of wine guiltily, her gaze darting all over the place. At that, Roxanne's curiosity was further piqued. "Why are you beating around the bush, considering our relationship?" Madeline again wavered for a long while. Finally, she ventured, "Do you still remember Ms. Lane?" Hearing that, Roxanne was stumped for a few seconds before she recalled the person Madeline was speaking of. It was no wonder she could not remember Electra immediately, for too many things had happened in the past 2 days. Furthermore, the woman had only appeared before her once briefly. Verily, she did not have the presence of mind to pay Electra much attention. Yeah. Lucian has explained that they're good friends. What's with her?" Sighing, Madeline urged earnestly, "I think while Mr. Farwell was quite a scumbag 6 years ago, judging from the look of things now, he's indeed a decent man who's hard to come by. Not only did Ms. Lane grow up with him, but the timing of her return this time is also rather suspicious. You'd best be careful, lest she turns out to be the next Aubrey." After saying that, she clarified, I don't mean anything else by that. I've seen how much Mr. Farwell cares about you in the past few days, and I believe that he definitely won't have a change of heart. But then, no one knows Ms. Lane's thoughts exactly. It's prudent to be careful." She was truly scared after everything that had transpired with Aubrey. On the one hand, She was happy that her best friend had found true love. But on the other, she was afraid that the latter would be hurt because Lucian was too popular among the ladies. Since Roxanne's return to the country, Meline had almost lost her twice. As such, she did not want to experience it a third time. Upon hearing that, Roxan frowned slightly. Electra's countenance gradually took shape in her mind. Casting her mind back to the woman for a while, she shook her head lightly.
Yeah, I don't think she's such a person.
As far as she remembered, Electra's gaze was exceedingly sincere. That aside, Lucian's evaluation of her was also relatively good. Therefore, she trusted her intuition.
I'm just cautioning you against her.
Truthfully speaking, she also told me while you were still unconscious that she has no designs on Mr. Farwell. Nevertheless, it does no harm for us to be on our guard against her, Meline asserted.
Got it.
I'll be more careful around her, Roxanne concurred with a smile, knowing that her best friend was merely warning her for her own good. Only then was Meline satisfied. In no time, the two of them chatted about other things, the atmosphere very much relaxed. Meanwhile, Jonathan had just finished handling Jack's matter and returned to the Queen family from the police station. The instant he stepped in the door, he was greeted by the sight of his sister sitting on the couch, watching television distractedly and glancing in the direction of the door every so often. As soon as Freda spotted him, her expression changed, and she greeted him enthusiastically. I've seen the news and learned that Jack has been arrested, Jonathan.
So, Roxanne has probably regained consciousness as well, right?
In response, Jonathan bobbed his head.
Yeah.
She regained consciousness last night. We'd been busy with Jack's matter, so we hadn't the time to tell you about it. It was thanks to his sister engaging Peregrine's services that Roxanne could wake up from her coma this time. Thus, it was only right for him to notify her about the matter. He initially thought that Freda would be chagrined, but unexpectedly, he did not glimpse a hint of disgruntlement on her face. Just as he was wondering about it, his sister's meaningful voice drifted into the air.
Old Mr. Lomax must have played a pivotal role in the matter, huh? Did Lucian not say anything about it?
In other words, she was claiming credit from him. Jonathan's brows creased imperceptibly, and he felt a touch irked. True enough, her contribution was crucial in the matter this time. Hence, it's only natural for Lucian to thank her. Even so, she should let him take the initiative to offer her a token of appreciation. How could she ask for it herself? Moreover, her help toward Roxanne is, in a sense, an atonement for the foolish things she did in the past. How could she have the nerve to ask for a gift? When Freda received no response, her expression turned resentful. You know how difficult it was to convince old Mr. Lomax to help. I spent tremendous effort to save Roxanne. No matter what I did in the past, I don't owe her anything anymore. At once, Jonathan's expression darkened.
What are you talking about?
Is that not true? Your relationship with her is close, and you're willing to save her, but not me. Even if she had saved Grandpa previously, the medicinal herbs we gave her were more than enough to repay that debt of gratitude. I'm not willing to do her such a huge favor for nothing. Freda retorted in displeasure.
Shut up.
Jonathan's face went as black as thunder. Scrutinizing his sister, he proceeded to demand, tell me the truth. How did you get old Mr. Lomax to help? Did you really find his contact on the internet?
Or was it the credit of the man behind you?
He did not believe that Peregrine's contact information could be obtained so easily. Back then, he did not harp on it because he did not have the time to do so. Since Freda was presently adamant about a thank you gift, he felt that it was necessary for him to get to the bottom of things. He stared at his sister intently.
Was it also him who taught you to say all this? What's his motive?
Those questions of his hit Freda like a series of cannonballs. After all, she had never discussed how to answer such questions with Shawn. In a flash, guilt swamped her. She opened her mouth, but no words of justification came out. At that, Jonathan's heart slowly sank to rock bottom. You turned a deaf ear to everything I said to you, huh? Seeing his sister's reaction, Jonathan had a general idea about the current situation. What exactly is that man's motive? His previous suspicion of having sent Aubrey abroad made it clear that he was an enemy of the Farwell family. Yet, he specifically had old Mr. Lomax help to treat Roxanne this time. His actions are rather peculiar, and I can't figure him out. In the face of her brother's authoritative aura, Freda suppressed her emotions, her expression indignant. Why do you think I did so? Can't I achieve something for myself? For my whole life, the entire Queen family has nurtured you as the heir. What about me? No one has ever taken me seriously. Am I just a haughty daughter of a prominent family in other people's eyes? Am I not worthy of having my own ambition? She grew increasingly emotional as she spoke. In the end, she declared, listen here, Jonathan. Starting today, I'm also your competitor. Unlike you, I won't be going along with the Farwell family in everything. That tirade sparked the fury Jonathan had initially leashed. The Farwell family hasn't been maltreating us. In fact, they've been pretty good to us. Regarding them as an enemy would be true foolishness. Besides, Lucian would undoubtedly give the Queen family credit for having gotten old Mr. Lomax to help. Whatever benefit you want, I'll give it to you at that time. Having said that, he left the house right away. Behind him, Freda's expression changed, her gaze unfathomable. At the Farwell residence, Lucian worked on his laptop. He had a lot of work matters piled up after taking time off the past few days. Although Caden could handle most of the matters, there were always some deals and contracts he had to review and sign off personally. When Roxanne saw Lucian focused on work, she did not interrupt him. Instead, she brewed a cup of hot coffee and carried it over, her eyes dancing with delight. Lifting his eyes, Lucian held her gaze. Unbidden, the corners of his mouth turned up a fraction. The poison within you hasn't been dispelled completely, so you need to rest more. There's no need to bother about me. You can sleep first, he murmured after picking up the coffee and taking a sip. Okay. Don't overwork yourself. I'll go and look in on the kids to see whether they've all gone to bed. The peaceful life had Roxanne feeling incredibly relaxed. Despite almost losing her life in the bout of poisoning this time, she had also more or less gained some things. Whirling around, she went upstairs. Archie, Benny, and Estella were worn out from playing and had all fallen asleep. Thus, she planned on taking a nice, hot bath. Shortly after, a car drove into the yard, and Jonathan rushed into the living room in a frenzy. Could it be that something has happened again for Lucian to call me over at this hour? What's the matter, Lucian? He asked, cutting straight to the chase. Lucian flipped the lid of his laptop close. Calm down. It's nothing major. Have a seat. I've got something to discuss with you. Only then did Jonathan sit down with peace of mind. Raising his eyes, he watched as Lucian brewed coffee methodically. Lucian was skilled at brewing coffee, and he slid a 3/4 full cup at Jonathan when he was done. Have some coffee first, he offered. As the aroma of coffee wafted into Jonathan's nostrils, he found it very much revitalizing. I have to say, Lucian, you've been at your most irritable in the past few days. Now, you've finally reverted to your usual calmness, he lamented in a heartfelt manner, picking up the cup of coffee. Chuckling, Lucian nodded in agreement. That's true. She's the most important thing in my life, after all. The main reason I called you over tonight is to ask about your arrangements regarding the DeMorris family's assets. No matter how damaged something was, there was still value to it, not to mention a prestigious family with a long history in traditional medicine like the DeMorris family. Jack irrefutably had some talent in doing business. Unfortunately, his heart was not in the right place, and he had strayed from the path. Following the fall of the DeMorris family this time, countless people were eyeing the pie, hoping for a share. Indeed, the DeMorris family left behind a number of top-notch assets. Jack was involved in a myriad of business ventures. Real estate, investment firms, and aesthetic medicine were his main investment subjects, while the supply chain of medicinal herbs was the core of it all. He had a total of 13 to 14 medicinal herbs trade companies, encompassing almost all types of medicinal herbs from the north to south. Additionally, he had several certifications for the production of Western medical technology. As Jonathan summarized the Damaris family's assets, he could not help giving voice to the question plaguing him all this time. I really don't understand why he was so eager for success. Considering the scale of his business, coupled with the industry's future prospects, the entire Damaris family's assets would certainly increase several folds in a few years. He could have easily attained a scale of hundreds of billions. Lucian lifted his eyes, the look in them seemingly dark and grim. In truth, he was right. He knew very well that all those businesses were merely a game of cash flow and not the veritable core asset. It's true that their medicinal herb supply chain was exceedingly strong, but if they couldn't keep up in terms of research and development, that industrial chain would have been broken by others sooner or later. For that reason, he had a crystal clear purpose from the very beginning. He approached and tried to win Roxan over, using both ingenuity and trickery to gain control of the research team and technology she helmed. After obtaining that revelation, Jonathan mulled it over for several seconds with a frown. At long last, comprehension showed on his face. Lucian, did you ask me here tonight because you want me to go all out to take over the Damaris family's medicinal herbs supply chain? He queried proactively. In response, Lucian dipped his head. You've done me a great favor this time, so the Damaris family's medicinal herbs supply chain should belong to you. After all, the Queen family is also in this industry, and the merging will undoubtedly be faster. Naturally, Roxan also won't have to worry about a supply shortage if you're in charge of the supply chain. It's a win-win situation. Sure. I shall graciously accept, then. But I've got a request this time. My sister deserves some credit for having convinced old Mr. Lomax to help. As such, let her be in charge of the Damaris family's supply chain. Otherwise, the collaboration partners who used to collaborate with us in the past would likely kick up a fuss. At the end of the day, Freda's words had touched Jonathan to some extent. It's a fact that Freda has quite a bit of talent in business, but I've always overshadowed her. Our family and outsiders have never taken her capabilities seriously. This time, her contribution can't be negated. It goes without saying that I'll give her what she deserves. As for that man's motive, I'll observe patiently. The instant things seem off, I probably have the capability to curb the problem. That's up to you to decide. Since I'm handing it to the Queen family, you're free to make the arrangements. I won't interfere. Besides, your sister does have some capabilities, but she has never been taken seriously in the past, Lucian replied bluntly without a hint of hesitation. Subsequently, he poured Jonathan another cup of coffee and asked, how's old Mr. Queen doing? If there are any problems, you can have Roxan go over and take another look at him. Hearing that, Jonathan grinned. He's great. Perfect, in fact. He goes on fishing trips daily, growing younger by the day. There's no need to trouble Roxan. I'm glad to hear that. Lucian smiled as well, finding it convenient to have a skilled doctor as a wife. All of a sudden, he quirked a brow, a teasing look in his eyes. Speaking of which, I'm considered attached now. What about you? When are you going to consider marriage? Jonathan never expected the man to bring up that subject out of the blue. Whoa. He has already won his woman over, so he's now starting to mock those who are still single and available, huh? Embarrassment showed on his face, and he chuckled dryly. There's no one I fancy yet. If I've got someone in mind, I'll naturally hang on to her tightly. You don't need to worry about this, Lucian. After drinking a few cups of coffee, Jonathan beat a hasty retreat with the excuse that drinking too much coffee would lead to insomnia. Lucian watched as the man left. Gradually, his smiling expression faded, only to be replaced with a pensive look. What exactly is the identity of the man Freda knows? I've looked into it for a bit, and considering old Mr. Lomax's status, she couldn't have suddenly made his acquaintance, much less successfully persuade the great king of medicine to come to Horrington and treat a veritable stranger. Regretfully, it's inappropriate for me to ask old Mr. Lomax about this directly. Having made up his mind, he snagged his phone and called Caden. J'arrange for someone to investigate everyone Freda has been in contact with recently, especially anyone with a northern accent. If you have any leads, check them out thoroughly. I got it. I'll go about it right away, Caden answered. Without anyone realizing it, a week flew past. Lucian took Roxanne to the hospital for several checkups consecutively to ascertain that the toxins within her had been completely dispelled. Roxanne then started to devote herself to research and development once more. Waking up early one morning, she noticed that Lucian was still slumbering soundly beside her. As she gazed at him, he appeared all the more handsome. Ultimately, she could not help reaching out and cautiously stroking his face. It was as though his lips possessed some magical powers as she found her gaze riveted on them. She carefully leaned over and sampled them briefly. He did not wake up but turned over and continued sleeping. Roxanne silently got out of bed and went to the bathroom outside to wash up, loath to wake him. Thereafter, she quickly went downstairs and had breakfast before returning to the room. Opening his bleary eyes, Lucian asked, why did you wake up so early? Sleep in for a bit. No, it's okay. I've had enough sleep. I've got to go to the Research Institute soon. A number of projects will be launched at the same time today, and old Mr. Lomax is also waiting. So, you'll have to send the kids to school. All smiles, Roxanne did not wait for his response but promptly leaned down and gave him a light peck on the cheek. After doing so, she was going to leave in a hurry, only for Lucian to wrap an arm around her waist. Can't you take some time off to rest properly? Don't think I'm entirely clueless about you having been conducting experiments tirelessly at the Research Institute these past few days. You're not allowed to go anymore today. Standing up, he hugged her tightly. Then, his voice turned reproving. You haven't spent much time with the kids since you fell gravely ill. You owe Essie for not being by her side the past few years. Of course, I owe Archie and Benny the same. Therefore, don't go anywhere today. Let's spend time together as a family. Right then, he was indescribably gentle. Roxanne wanted to argue further, but the man captured her mouth in the next heartbeat. Suddenly perking up, Lucian began kissing her passionately. Shock pervaded Roxanne. Good Lord. He put me through the ringer last night, and it's only been a few hours since then. Her token struggles were entirely futile. Like a tidal wave, the man overwhelmed her rationale in the blink of an eye. When the calm returned after the stormy passion, she felt as though her body was going to fall apart. She rested her head on Lucian's arm, docile beyond words. Meanwhile, gratification was etched across Lucian's features, and his lips were stretched wide in a grin. Now that the Queen family has taken over the medicinal herbs supply chain, coupled with old Mr. Lomax's help, there are many experiments that you no longer need to conduct personally. Let old Mr. Lomax lead the researchers instead. Otherwise, the Research Institute will only have you as a resource and not a full-fledged research team. Do you get it? At his gentle reminder, Roxanne bobbed her head obediently in assent to that statement. True enough, I should learn to delegate. While I'm a core member of the Research Institute, it doesn't mean that everything has to be done by me alone. After she had grasped that, she gave Linda a call. I won't be coming in today, Linda. Note down the upcoming projects. Then, have old Mr. Lomax lead a few of the core technical personnel in starting the experiments. By the time she had made all the arrangements, Lucian had already gotten out of bed and washed up. The triplets had also awakened. Archie and Benny had always been independent. Being with them every day, Estella had also learned to take care of herself. When the three of them had washed up, Lucian went over to check on them. He then complimented them all. Subsequently, it was time to change. Estella helped her brothers pick out their outfits, deciding on an incredibly cool and casual look. After Archie and Benny had changed, she swiftly claimed credit from Lucian. "Look, Daddy. Are my choices good? I want to be a fashion designer in the future. Is that okay?" Of course. I think you might make a great fashion designer in the future, Essie." Indulgence was written clearly in Lucian's eyes. Archie likewise praised his sister, saying, Daddy, I truly think Essie is talented in fashion design. She can even design and trim clothes by herself now." Exactly, Daddy. Essie promised to gift us a set of clothes handmade by her for our birthday next year. We're both looking forward to it. Benny divulged Estella's secret with a giggle. Estella was inexorably shy, but her two brothers went over to her and patted her on her head lovingly. That's great. You've finally found your own passion, Essie. Like your two brothers, all of you are the pride of me and your mommy." Lucian felt the same as he was claiming verbally. They're all smart and have different talents. Truly, they're godsend treasures. Thinking that Roxan had already gone to work, the triplets obediently made their way downstairs for breakfast. Lucian did the same, chatting casually with them at the breakfast table. It's going to be the weekend soon. Discuss among yourselves where you'd like to go. Your mommy will be free during the weekend, so we'll all go together," he declared. Hearing that their mother would also be joining them, the triplets instantly cheered. They started discussing among themselves. Let's go to the zoo." "Oh, forget it. The snakes frightened Essie back then." How about the amusement park?" "But there are many rides we can't play, so never mind." I think we can go to the oceanarium. It's been a long time since we've been there. Essie didn't get to see the white dolphins back then. We must make it up to her this time." In no time, they reached a consensus and chose to visit the oceanarium. Let's go to the oceanarium, Daddy. I want to see the giant sea turtles, white dolphins, whale sharks, and penguins. They're all so cute," Estella said to Lucian. Lucian nodded in agreement. All of a sudden, Archie and Benny studied Lucian's face intently. Frowning, Lucian questioned, "What's wrong? Is there something on my face?" "You've got prominent dark circles under your eyes, Daddy. You should rest more and not overwork yourself." Archie wore a concerned expression on his face. Do you not sleep well at night, Daddy? You should be like us and go to bed earlier." Benny seconded. A strange feeling suffused Lucian. It feels pretty intriguing to be on the receiving end of their concern. Nonetheless, he did not dare tell them it was because he was greedy for pleasure and spent the nights satiating his desire. Even Estella nagged, "You must sleep properly if you don't want dark eye circles, Daddy." In the end, Archie came up with a temporary solution. Daddy, soak a towel in hot water and use it as a compress after wringing it dry. It can alleviate dark circles and eliminate eye bags. I've also got an idea, Daddy. You can boil an egg and roll it beneath your eyes with your eyes closed when it has cooled slightly. That can get rid of dark circles. Such a method is equally effective in reducing swelling and bruising. Benny suggested, not to be outdone. Surprise flooded Lucian. They must have learned all that from Roxan. Who knows? Maybe one of them will inherit her medical skills in the future. Archie, Benny, how do you both know so much? Did you learn all that from Mommy? I want to learn, too. I want to master all that. Turning to Lucian, Estella pleaded, Daddy, have Mommy teach me, won't you? Okay. I'll ask your mommy to teach you when she's free. But don't you like fashion design? Mastering fashion design is also something commendable. Lucian remarked smilingly, trying to steer her in the right direction. At the end of the day, talent and passion were entirely different from a passing interest. All right, I'll study both then. I want to learn medical skills and fashion design. I'll work harder. Estella looked determined, taking the matter seriously. Immediately, Archie and Benny expressed their support for her. Seeing that, Lucian felt that they doted on her too much. Upstairs, Roxan overheard the entirety of their conversation. A smile tugged at her lips uncontrollably. In all her years, she had never felt as relaxed, peaceful, and joyful as she was at that moment. Her heart, which had been suspended in mid-air, seemed to settle back into her chest firmly. At the same time, a strong sense of security permeated her. In that instant, she felt all the more blissful. Since Lucian was sending the triplets to the kindergarten, she had nothing to do and went back to sleep. By the time she woke up, Caden had come over at some point and brought Lucian a thick stack of documents requiring his signature as CEO personally. Ever since her narrow brush with death, a number of unprecedented things had transpired. They included Lucian skipping work for several days in a row and important contracts being brought to the mansion to be signed. Tactful as ever, Caden did as he was instructed. After all, he had never seen his employer this relaxed and smiling so much. As soon as Lucian had signed all the contracts and agreements, Caden excused himself, leaving the time and space to the man. Before his assistant left, Lucian inquired, "What's the progress of the matter I asked you to investigate last night?" There are some leads. A man whom Freda has been in contact with is from the north. Recently, Freda established a new company and is recklessly tossing out money to buy the rapidly depreciating assets of the Damaris family. It's likely that man's doing. I'll report back to you after I've ascertained his exact identity, Caden answered in a lowered voice. The instant Lucian dipped his head, the man left. When Roxan came to the living room, she was greeted by the sight of shopping bags on the coffee table. They either contained supplements or nutritional foods. It looks like Caden has also learned all these formalities. But then he didn't need to buy so much. Roxan regarded Lucian with a chuckle. Unexpectedly, Lucian shook his head, denying that they were from Caden. Who are these from, then?" Roxan asked. "Electra came over and brought these earlier. She wanted to visit you, but you were still sleeping, so I didn't want to wake you. I merely told her you weren't home. She didn't stay for long, leaving after dropping all this here," Lucian replied calmly. To him, such superficial niceties did not matter at all. "Oh, easy. Did you thank her on my behalf?" Although the supplements and nutritious foods were mostly superfluous advertising in the eyes of a doctor like Roxan, she still acknowledged Electra's kind intentions. Yeah. She also asked us out for a meal. I didn't accept right away, so you can have the say. I don't mind either way." Lucian greatly treasured the opportunity he finally had after successfully winning her back this time. Thus, he was determined to seek her opinion in everything, lest some trouble cropped up again. Well, I'm fine either way. She has just returned from abroad and done me such a huge favor, so I should be the one treating her to a meal. You can help me extend an invitation to her in my name," Roxan replied.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.